MaxOverheadAthletics.com. Today I'm joined by David. David here is one of our baseball players, and I want to show something with assessing internal rotation because I see this done all the time, and it's kind of like a little cheat that people do to make their stretch or something look more effective than it is. So we want to make sure we're assessing internal rotation properly. And what I like to do with a lot of these guys is to just let them fall passively into their end range. So I want to see what happens at the shoulder, what the shoulder does, and then from there is I like to pin the shoulder down and back so there's no sort of shoulder complex movement when I assess internal rotation. Now I've also got him up on my leg, so he's in the scapular plane, and I need to keep that consistent. And then I take him to the end, and I don't overpressure this. What I see people doing a lot of time with their internal and external rotation is they're not looking at the end of passive resistance-free motion. They just crank guys back as far as they possibly can and say, oh, how far do they go? That's not what we really should be doing with our motion assessment if we want to get the most out of it. Cranking somebody all the way down here doesn't tell me a lot about what's going on with his shoulder. Rather, I stabilize the shoulder complex and just give him a slight overpressure and see where he gets to. Now, because I've got him in the scapular plane, he's not down here on the table. That's going to put his shoulder in a better position. And then I can do some joint play assessment or something in this position, or if I want to see if it's truly a soft tissue restriction, I'll have him do some contract relax. So you're going to push back this way when I tell you. Push. Good. Relax. And I'll see if it melts. If I can get a little further and he kind of melts into that range, push. That's a great sign we're dealing with something soft tissue. But here's what I see a lot of people doing. Even a channel that I really like, I was watching the therapist, and he did an assessment up here where he's at about 90 degrees of abduction, assessed internal rotation, and he was down here on the table, which is probably not where we should assess it for true internal rotation. So he assesses internal rotation, and then he does this technique, and the next time he assesses it down here. Now I want you to look how much internal rotation he gets, just no overpressure there versus here. So as soon as I take him into less abduction, he gets much more range. As soon as I take him up here into abduction, way less range. He loses internal rotation as he goes up because you've taken up slack in one direction. So the particular video I'm talking about, they did a breathing related technique and pushed on one side of his rib cage and then looked at internal rotation here, pressed on the rib cage and looked at it there, and it's like, wow, he's got a lot more. Well, you didn't improve the range at all necessarily. You just assessed in a position where the shoulder has more internal rotation. So kind of be structured in your approach, which is stay at 90 if you want to do it at 90, get them up into the scapular plane, and then it's not crank them until you can't crank them any farther into internal or external rotation. It's take them to where you start to hit tissue resistance, and that's going to give you a more realistic depiction of the passive resistance-free motion or the pathway of least resistance. So with the shoulder, I want to be as consistent as possible with my testing position. And if I'm just trying to demonstrate effectiveness, doing it in a different position is something you can maybe get away with a lot of people. But as soon as I see that, I already know that you're just changing the position of abduction to try to alter what the patient perceives or what we perceive on video. So make sure you're in a structured approach where you're trying to be objective as possible with your motion assessment. If you're going to assess internal rotation, put them in the scapular plane, keep them at 90 degrees, and then keep that shoulder complex pinned down so that they can't compensate through the scapula. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one.